What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as we look at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including a potential lineup for TLC, a big superstar is potentially being pulled from the pay-per-view, Paul Heyman says that this women's superstar is the future, a wrestler loses his arm, a crazy Kevin Nash film, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now let's hit the intro and get straight into the first story. Now our first story looks at the potential TLC card. At WWE's last 2020 pay-per-view, TLC is scheduled for 20th December and it appears the company has finally lined up a few matches. According to Ringside News, we were told that Roman Reigns vs Kevin Owens is confirmed for the event. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton will also do battle. Jey Uso vs Daniel Bryan is also a lockdown on the grid, as is Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler vs Asuka and Lana. Those are the only 4 matches that are guaranteed to happen as of last night. Of course, fans know that with Vince McMahon, plans could change the day of the show. How many times have fans seen planned matches changed at the last minute or cards left unknown until days before the show? We'd be more surprised if the show aired as planned rather than being changed at the last minute. Next up, some bad news as a WWE superstar is potentially being pulled from the event. Now, is Braun Strowman really injured? That's the question fans are asking, but unfortunately there are different reports on the Monster Among Men's condition. You may recall that Ringside News reported that Strowman was not on the WWE's injured list. However, Dave Meltzer provided an update on the latest Wrestling Observer Radio. So Braun Strowman does have a knee injury because he's being treated for it. I don't know the severity of it. The impression I have is that he's not going to be at TLC, so I think the 3-way is going to be for the spot, but I don't know that 100%. I don't think anyone knows anything anyway. From what someone told me, the writing team still thinks it's Strowman. That could be wrong. With TLC only just 3 weeks away, there's plenty of time for Strowman to appear, depending of course on the severity of his knee injury. Strowman has had a history of knee problems which have led to absences from the ring before, so it probably wouldn't be best to exacerbate it. Who knows, there could be big plans for Strowman at the Royal Rumble which could be affected if he wrestles at TLC. Next up, Paul Heyman says this women's wrestler is the future. Now it's safe to say that Paul Heyman has one of the most brilliant minds in wrestling today. He knows what can make or break a wrestler's career and take them to the top, as he's managed some of wrestling's biggest stars. So with that great mind, he's able to tell who could potentially be WWE's next biggest star. On Talking Smack, Paul gave huge praise to Bianca Belair, calling her the future of the women's division. He mentioned, "I would be remiss if I didn't also let Bianca know, and I think she knows this quite well, you're the future of this division." I couldn't agree more with Heyman. With her feud against Bayley and several key superstars out of the division for some time, this could be WWE's chance to put her right at the top. Really, where she belongs. Next up, one of the biggest Wrestlemania arenas is being demolished. WWE fans will forever remember Wrestlemania 6 and 18, events that featured many magnificent matches, but are best remembered respectively for Hulk Hogan vs The Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan vs The Rock. These 2 editions of the Showcase of the Immortals were the only WrestleManias ever held in Canada and were both located at Toronto's Rogers Centre, formerly known as the Skydome. Now the building is up for demolition, and while the pandemic has put its destruction on hold, Wrestling News' Andrew Ravens is reporting it's unknown what's next. A representative from the Rogers Centre noted, "Prior to the pandemic, we were exploring options for the stadium, but through this year our primary focus has been keeping our customers connected and employees safe, so there's no update on the Rogers Centre to share at this time. There's so much history in the building besides wrestling that will be sad for many fans to see it go." Next up, the new Thunderdome location poses various challenges. The WWE Thunderdome is moving from the Amway Center to Tropicana Field, but it appears the new location is posing challenges for the WWE's production team. The new issue of the Wrestling Observer had this to say about the Thunderdome's new home. Regarding Tropicana Field, what we've been told is the stadium is huge and the sound is awful, although WWE can pipe stuff in and control that aspect. There's also a colony of pigeons who live in the dome's roof. The WWE's production crew is known for adapting to various challenges, and despite initial challenges, they're likely to handle these ones as well. Next up, a wrestler is forced to retire after losing an arm. There's terrible news for 37-year-old Jimmy Rave, as the former Ring of Honor and TNA performer has had to retire following the amputation of his arm. Rave released a statement to his fans, an excerpt which follows: "I've been blessed for the last 21 years in professional wrestling and getting to live out my dream. Today that dream has ended for me and I have a new reality. This past Tuesday, my world came crashing down when doctors found an infection in my left arm. I tried toughing it out, but by the time I saw a doctor, it was too late and they had to amputate my left arm above the elbow, thus effectively ending my in-ring career." Rave encouraged his fans to take their health more seriously than he did. There's no word on what's next for Jimmy Rave. We wish him all the best. Next up, a big rumor as charges against Del Rio could have been dropped. An update to our story that Alberto Del Rio's accuser may be recanting her allegations against the former WWE superstar. Del Rio's ex-girlfriend apologized to Del Rio's family on social media, leading to speculation that she will not press charges for Del Rio allegedly kidnapping her and forcing himself on her. Despite what you may have heard, there is no confirmation that the case against Del Rio has been dropped, although Ringside News is reporting there is no longer any record of the charges against him. At this point, it is a wild rumor that Del Rio's case is over, and it's up to the state of Texas to decide whether or not to dismiss the charges. We'll continue following this story, but at this point, any so-called news on Del Rio's criminal case is mere speculation. Next up, why the Four Horsemen were so successful. The Four Horsemen are still considered one of wrestling's greatest heel factions, with the group dominating wrestling in the mid to late 80s. Recently, founding member Arn Anderson discussed the reasons for the group's success and why he feels it can't be duplicated. Chatting with Inside the Ropes, AA explained, "I think a lot of these factions these days, they don't realize that our sole purpose was to go on that TV, piss a lot of people off, go to the live events at night, and just get our asses handed to us. That's what the people paid to see in those days, because we had a lot of heat with people that wanted us to be shut up. Somebody shut these guys up. A lot of the other factions are there, and I understand this, to get themselves over, push themselves. Once they get to the live events at night, they're not that gung-ho about giving the fans what they want, which is Four Horsemen getting their ass kicked for 30 minutes. While there's no denying that the Horsemen had their fans and were one of the first cool heel factions, they also had a number of fans who wanted to see stars like Dusty Rhodes, the Road Warriors, the Rock and Roll Express, and others dish out a well-deserved beating. What do you guys think of Arn's comments, and can you think of any factions today that are as hated and successful in getting heat as the Four Horsemen? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, WWE superstars changing their names. It looks like several WWE superstars, and some big names to boot, are using their real names for their projects outside the WWE. For example, Wrestling News' Paul Davis notes, Sasha Banks is still using Sasha Banks WWE as her Twitter and Instagram handle, but the name on the accounts has been changed to Mercedes Varnado, which is her real name. TV Guide also referenced her by her real name in a new article about her role on Disney's The Mandalorian. The article notes that Charlotte Flair may be using Ashley Flair for her outside projects, and that Xavier Woods signed as Austin Creed for his upcoming gig on G4. With the WWE reminding superstars that their stage names are due to the WWE's marketing machine, it's easy to see why some wrestlers want to keep the WWE from grabbing a piece of the pie for their non-WWE work. If you've been keeping up with our news videos, you know that WWE is apparently building its own talent agency for its wrestlers, hoping to book them for outside gigs and capitalize on their wrestlers' popularity. And finally, Kevin Nash stars in COVID-19 Invasion. Last but not least, we want to warn viewers about an upcoming Kevin Nash film that sounds like a poor man's Sharknado. According to WrestleZone's Anthony Nash, Nash is currently set to star in the upcoming film COVID-19 Invasion, which is set to center on a group of Chinese bats that have invaded America, leaving it up to Navy SEAL Team 6 to stop them. Yeah, don't think I'll be watching that one. Would you guys? Let us know in the comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.